When my child turned 3, nothing dramatic happened on that exact birthday. There was no sudden switch, no loud announcement from the universe, but quietly, almost invisibly, something had already passed. A window I didn't even realize was open had begun to close, and it wasn't about milestones or intelligence or whether my child could count or talk clearly. It was about how their brain had been shaped by thousands of tiny moments I thought didn't matter at the time. Looking back now, I realize how much I misunderstood those early years, not because I didn't care, but because no one ever explained what was really happening inside my child's brain while I was busy trying to be a good parent. I used to believe that the most important things were teaching words, colors, numbers, and manners. I thought development was something you actively taught, like lessons you deliver correctly or incorrectly. What I didn't know was that long before logic, memory, or self-control develop, the brain is learning something much more fundamental. It's learning whether the world feels safe, whether emotions are manageable, whether connection comes before correction. And those lessons are written into the brain long before a child can explain how they feel or why they behave the way they do. One of the biggest things I wish I had understood earlier is that my child wasn't giving me a hard time, they were having a hard time. I used to interpret frustration, crying, or resistance as behavior that needed fixing. Now I know those moments were signs of a nervous system still under construction. A young child's brain doesn't have the wiring to pause, think, and choose better behavior. The parts responsible for impulse control and emotional regulation simply aren't ready yet. When I reacted with urgency or irritation, I wasn't teaching self-control. I was adding stress to a system that was already overwhelmed. I also wish I had known how deeply my own emotional state shaped my child's brain. I believed that as long as I didn't yell or punish harshly, I was doing okay. But children don't just listen to words. Their brains are constantly scanning tone, facial expressions, breathing patterns, and energy. When I was anxious, distracted, or emotionally unavailable, even without saying a word, my child felt it. Their brain was learning whether closeness feels calming or confusing. I didn't realize that my calm was more important than my instructions. Another thing I misunderstood was independence. I thought pushing independence early was helpful, that encouraging my child to manage emotions alone would make them stronger. What I didn't know is that the ability to self-soothe comes from being soothed first. A child learns regulation through repeated experiences of being regulated with. When I stepped back too quickly or expected emotional maturity before the brain was ready, I wasn't building resilience. I was creating disconnection. True independence grows from secure dependence, not from emotional distance. I also used to believe that responding quickly to my child's needs would spoil them. I worried that picking them up too often, comforting them too much, or responding too quickly would create bad habits. What I didn't understand is that responsiveness doesn't weaken a child, it strengthens the brain's stress system. Each time a child's distress is met with calm connection, the brain learns that stress is survivable and manageable. That lesson stays with them far longer than any short-term behavior strategy. I wish I had understood that play was not just play. I used to treat play as something optional, something that happened after chores or learning activities. Now I know that play is how the brain organizes itself. Through play, children practice emotional flexibility, problem solving, creativity, and social understanding. When play is rushed or interrupted too often, the brain misses opportunities to wire itself naturally. I didn't need more educational toys. I needed more unstructured, present moments. I also didn't realize how powerful language is long before children understand words fully. The tone we use, the way we narrate experiences, and how we talk about emotions all shape how a child understands themselves. When I labeled emotions instead of dismissing them, when I said, "I see you, Ray, upset," instead of "you, Ray, fine," my child's brain was learning emotional literacy. I wish I had known that naming feelings helps calm the brain, even when the child can't yet explain what they're feeling. Sleep was another area I misunderstood deeply. I thought sleep struggles were behavioral problems to be fixed with routines alone. What I didn't know is that sleep regulation is tied closely to emotional safety. When a child's nervous system feels secure, sleep comes more easily. When stress builds up during the day, it often shows up at night. Instead of seeing bedtime resistance as defiance, I wish I had seen it as communication from a tired, overloaded brain. I also used to underestimate the impact of transitions. I thought moving from one activity to another should be simple, but for a young brain, transitions are cognitively demanding. Stopping something enjoyable, shifting attention, and adjusting expectations require executive functions that are still developing. When I rushed transitions, I was unknowingly triggering stress responses. Giving warnings, slowing down, and offering connection during transitions made a bigger difference than discipline ever did. One of the most surprising things I learned too late was that discipline doesn't teach what we think it teaches. Consequences might stop behavior temporarily, but they don't build the brain skills needed for long-term change. Skills like impulse control, emotional regulation, and empathy are developed through connection and modeling, not fear or withdrawal of love. When I focused on teaching instead of controlling, everything shifted. I also wish I had known that comparison is one of the fastest ways to undermine confidence. Every child's brain develops at its own pace, shaped by genetics, environment, and experience. Comparing milestones, behavior, or temperament only creates pressure. When I started honoring my child's unique wiring instead of measuring it against others, I became a calmer parent, and my child became more secure. Perhaps the most important thing I wish I had understood is that perfection was never the goal. Repair was. I spent so much energy trying not to make mistakes, not realizing that mistakes followed by repair actually strengthened the parent-child bond. When I apologized, reconnected, and explained, my child learned that relationships can handle rupture and recovery. That lesson is foundational for emotional health. If I could go back, I wouldn't change everything I did. I would change how much grace I gave myself. Parenting a developing brain is not about getting it right all the time. It's about showing up again and again with curiosity instead of control, connection instead of correction, and patience instead of pressure. If your child is under 3 right now, or even older, please know this. You haven't missed your chance. The brain is always learning. The moments that matter most are not the perfectly planned ones. They are the ordinary moments where your child feels seen, safe, and supported. The way you respond when things are messy, emotional, or hard is shaping a brain that will one day regulate emotions, build relationships, and trust itself. You don't need to do more. You don't need to buy more. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be present enough, kind enough, and willing to learn alongside your child. Because long after they forget the words you taught or the rules you enforced, their brain will remember how it felt to be your child. And that feeling becomes the foundation they build their entire life on. If this video reached you at a moment when you're questioning yourself, feeling tired, or wondering if you're doing enough, let this be the reminder you needed. Your presence matters. Your calm matters. Your willingness to understand matters. And even on the days you feel like you're failing, your child's brain is still learning one powerful lesson from you: that they are loved, safe, and never alone.